Kyle's Pro Tips! Hey guys, thanks for voting for Girls with Swords. We're actually in the finals in the Make My Series web series contest. We snuck in by 31 votes. So those votes you put in really counted. So thank you so much for getting you and your friends to vote. Because we passed 535, I'm going to put up another tutorial. And I got the request to do character rigging. Now, I'm not the best character rigger, but I'm going to show you what I know. You want to make sure you have the character module here. Some versions, I think Cinema 4D Prime doesn't have this module. So you want to make sure you have the character module before you get started. What we're doing in rigging is we're basically taking a mesh like this. This is now a polygonal mesh. You can select polygons and stuff. I'm going to be using these joints. It's better to draw in one of these views because when you do perspective view, you have no idea what you're going to get. So we're creating a skeleton using joints. I put down 3 joints. These bones are kind of representations of what's happening in between these points, but really it's bending around these points, these joints. So we're using this skeleton to deform the mesh. So here you can see that these joints are literally placed inside of the mesh. They don't need to be. They can be anywhere. As long as physically in the 3D space, they kind of occupy the insides. Now you can see I put a little bit of a bend to it. That's kind of to train the skeleton which way it needs to move. So I'm just going to show you just a basic rig here. I'm going to click on the first point in the hierarchy and the point I want to control, and I'm going to create an IK chain. And I'll create a little tag here, an IK tag, which basically says the same information. On our first joint here, the end of this chain is joint 3, which you can see here. And then the controller is a new null, which it just made, joint 3 goal here. So if I move this point around, this goal, which happens to be located right at the tip, you can see I get some crazy, awesome motion here. There's other things to note in here. You can basically change it from IK to FK. The difference being IK will basically try to move this skeleton to follow this point. So it's really helpful, like if you have a hand and you want to put on like a doorknob or feet on the ground. I use IK for most stuff. There are certain points when you want to actually use FK, like say, if you want something to swing, or you want the motion to come from the body and go out and not even care what the point is, like not kind of adhere to a goal. That's when you want to use FK. You have a strength, and that will basically, if I move this controller up here, I can say how much the influence it has. So like you can see, it doesn't do anything anymore. It's basically a slider to break things. So I'm glad that they included that. Then you also have a pole vector here. So by clicking on that add pole, it creates a new null object. And I can move that kind of out to the side here. You can see it has this purple line attached, showing that if I move this, it's going to change where the skeleton is pointing, which is kind of cool. It's good for like, rotation on stuff. So now another thing is with null objects, if I click on it here in the manager over here, I can set a color to it. Let's just say on. It's always going to be red. But even better, I can change it to display to something like a star. Whoa, look at that. Now it's a star. How cool is that? It's going to basically be oriented to the camera, but I can set this to any other kind of orientation. So like, I think camera works for that. But if I was using, say, a foot, it would make sense to, have it be on the ground plane or something like that. Maybe it would, I don't know. Makes sense to me. So this is a nice way to actually have your controllers in your viewport, so you can, instead of like fumbling through this kind of interface here where you're like, oh, where is it? You can basically just grab it right here and move stuff around. Same thing with the goal. I can create something that looks kind of like this. Let's make a cube. Scale it up. And there, cool. Now I got this thing, which won't render out. Nulls won't render out, but it's just kind of for my benefit. But you're saying, well, why isn't the thing underneath moving? This is stupid. Well, the reason being is we haven't bound the mesh to the skeleton yet. So if we select all the joints and then select the mesh, under the character options under commands, we have this bind. So once you have everything selected, mesh and all of the joints, just go into there, bind, there. And what that does is it creates a nice little tag here, which shows you what joints are being used. And if you click on the weight tool, it'll show us our joint weighting. So that joint has as that, it basically covers that amount of polygons. It's going to move those polygons when that joint moves. So joint 3, even though it's moving, is really the second joint, like this bone looking thing here that's doing all the lifting. So for example, I'll just show you. Now it's like it's alive. It'll never be alive. So that's, if you wanted to make like a talking macaroni, I mean, that's probably what you do. But we want to do something a little bit more complex than that. I just wanted to show you the fundamentals just so you kind of know what's going on. Oh, and one more thing, you also have this. This is what's actually doing the deforming. So if I just, put it into a pose, this is what's deforming the mesh. Again, very important to know that the skeleton is twisting and turning these polygons using the weighting here. So if I select this again, using this information, that's how it's working. Again, this joint here is controlling what's in red. This joint's controlling what's in green. So when things don't work, you have weighting to blame, most likely. Okay, so let's take a look at Golem here. Okay, so this is Golem. Watch your eyes. He is a bit naked, but he prefers it that way. Okay, let's get started. So here we're just going to grab the joint tool. And under symmetry, we're going to make sure that draw is on. It's going to use the Y and the Z axis. Yes, I said Z. Big deal. Here's the Y and the Z axis. And so basically, it's going to mirror it over. So that's what we want because our character is kind of symmetrical that way. So I'm going to hold down Control. And then kind of click where the start of the leg is going to be, where the knee is, heel. And, I don't need to do specific toes. This is going to be pretty simple. And there. Looks like it's all good, right? Until we actually take a look at what we've done. Oh my God, it's nothing like the model. It's okay though, with as long as we don't kind of click away from the hierarchy in the joint tool, we can still move everything at once with symmetry on, which is kind of nice. I'm just going to kind of try to use a side view here to place the bones, the joints inside of the mesh. Again, with that kind of bend that we're talking about. Let's just take a look and see. I mean, that's pretty nice. Looks pretty good. Maybe this isn't quite sitting over the knee properly. Because remember, again, it's going to bend over that point. So you want to make sure those points are placed specifically and not all crazy. And we might be able to bring the leg up a little bit. Like maybe the leg socket should be up there somewhere. Okay, it looks good. So as you can see here, we just have this crazy unnamed mess. That could be very problematic later. So we're just going to name that now. Our up leg, our knee, our heel, and our foot. Same thing for the other side. Okay, great. So everything's named. So I'm going to kind of select the top where we want it to start the IK chain. We don't need that tool anymore. Go down to the heel. I'm going to click on Create IK Chain and create a pole. And then I'm going to select that pole and move it out so I can see it. Okay, same thing for the other leg. Go with the IK chain, blip, and blip. Move this out. So again, remember this is it's going to control the twist of the leg, as you can see. We don't want to animate anything yet. We want to keep the bones inside the mesh here, but we can test it out. And you'll notice it actually uses the names of whatever it's connecting to. So that's a good reason to name stuff. These controllers now are called heels. So it's like, okay, that's the foot. And you know what? It moves like a foot. I think that's pretty nice. If we were just to say, okay, that's good, we don't need to do anything more, that's great, but we wouldn't have foot control. Like we couldn't actually bend this this part down unless we created another controller. So let's just go heel to foot. Let's just do an IK chain, even though there's nothing in between. So like here now we have a foot controller, and so that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna move the leg to see what it looks like, and oh, I mean, okay, so So why it's doing that is because our controller, it's not parented underneath the leg. So when I move this controller, it's not moving that toe controller, which is good if you want to do like a ballet thing or something, but we don't want to do that. We want to parent this underneath there. So that means if I move this, it's going to move the joint underneath. So hierarchy becomes very important in rigging. You want to make sure that you move one thing and it moves everything else that you want. But then also we have the control over this. So I could animate this going out to here, and then I could also move this point around. So I have control over everything. But if I just want to do a broad strokes move and just be like, blah, it's done. It's perfect. So yeah, let's see about the spine. So I'm going to try something different for the spine here. I'm going to do an IK spline. So to do that, let's turn off symmetry because we don't want two spines, although that'd be really cool. I'm just going to kind of create like a bunch of little tiny vertebrae things. I think that's what a spine looks like. No chiropractor. Good. Okay. I'm going to call this one pelvis. Maybe. I don't call this one spine. Let's look at the start of the spine. Okay, and the very top is going to be our chest. So I'm just going to create a new B-spline because they're very smooth. I like them. I'm going to try to create this shape in the least amount of points possible. So there are 4 points. I think it's pretty good. I'll call this spline spine. It's a pretty good name. All right, and starting with the pelvis, let's just go into the character tags, IK spline. And we want to drop in the spline that we made, so there's a spline. And we want to tell it that the chest is the end of the chain. And so next we want to make sure that it has some handles. Now we need the handles to control the spline. It's not going to control these joints. It's going to control the spline, which will in turn control those joints. So I'm just going to add 4 because we have 4 points on our spline. I'm going to create little handles for each one of them. So you can see I can grab this point. I can move it around and oh my gosh, look, it's so cool. Ah! You can also delete these points, or as I showed before, let's just grab all of them. We can make little circles. Make them big. Bam! Look how sweet that is. So if I'm animating, I'd be all like, I want to grab this point. And move. Oh. Well, you probably just want to grab one point at a time. But yeah, you can just move one thing and then the spine will move accordingly. Pretty cool. That's working fine. Yeah. One thing though is sometimes I like to rotate the spine joints, and if I rotate, nothing happens. But if I parent these kind of like this, and if I parent the spline itself, if I rotate, then the whole thing will go, which is kind of cool. And I can just like select different ones and rotate as I go if I want to create more bend. Say then I go to the next tier, grab this point, oops, like that, and bend that. So that's kind of nice. All right, what else we got? Let's actually parent everything but the feet. So I'm going to parent the leg joints and the pelvis, and even the controller for the spline, all under one controller. This is going to be kind of our master pelvis or something like that. And so now if I grab this master pelvis and I move this around, you can see it's moving the joints. The legs are still grounded though because we don't have those in the hierarchy. We basically have those joints, the controllers for those joints are outside of this master pelvis hierarchy, which you can see includes our spine controllers, the pelvis, all the joints themselves basically, and the leg poles, which could be in or out depending on preference. So that's useful in that I can basically move everything upper body, and actually entire body really, by using this one controller and it kind of behaves realistically. So we're on a roll. Let's keep going. Okay, so I'm going to turn on symmetry one more time. Let's go to the top view. I'm going to create like a shoulder blade, then the start of the arm. Maybe the start of the arm is more like here. Then elbow, wrist, hand. And again, you want to be careful because it looks like that created that right on the ground plane. So no big deal though, we can just kind of fix that up. Ooh, I'm probably going to have to align this. You see that twisting? You want to avoid twisting like that because it's going to suck. Yeah, look at it twist. Ugh. So how to do that, and you should be doing this for all your joints, but select everything, and then under commands you got this align, and that just makes sure that they're all kind of pointing in the same direction so they don't twist like crazy weird directions. I don't know, it's magic, no one knows how it works. R shoulder, R arm, R elbow, R wrist, and so on. Okay, so now it looks like, yeah, these are roughly inside the arm area. I mean, I might want to fix this one up. So let's just move it back into here. So yeah, this is looking pretty good. You want to make sure that these are, again, fairly specific in their placement. You want that to be where it bends around. I'm not going to set up individual finger controls. So, okay, that's cool. Let's set up some IK chains. Now we don't necessarily need to set up the shoulder with anything. I just created that because I wanted just one kind of level in between the chest controller and where the arm starts, because again, for weighting purposes, I just want to have something there. So we can just choose the arm, go all the way to the wrist, IK chain, add pole. Tedious stuff, huh? Oh my god. Move the pole out so we can see it. Maybe like there. And same thing for this arm, wrist. IK chain with a pole. I'm going to move the joints as well as the controllers inside this hierarchy here that has the chest controller there. So that means you see this little point here. When I move that around, it's going to move the arms as well, because it wouldn't make sense if I moved the chest and nothing happened with the arms, because the arms are connected to the chest. So that's pretty cool. All right. And if we wanted to, we could even put these inside the chest here, which might be a smarter way to do it. I fear though that if we move this around, yeah, it's going to get some weird twisting, and that's no fun. So let's just move them back. It just kind of goes to show you that you can really put these anywhere. They don't necessarily need to all be in the same hierarchy, but you need to pay attention to what kind of hierarchy they have. Okay, now back to the head. Let's just go joint tool, turn off symmetry, create one for the neck, maybe like a jaw, I don't know, whatever. Now, whatever point you drew last is going to be what it's going to try to continue from that point, but we don't want to continue from that point. We want to back up a step. So I'm just going to click on this joint here, kind of go up to the top of the head. Let's name neck. Up neck, maybe. Head. I think this is the jaw. See, that's why you need to name stuff, otherwise you don't know. Okay, jaw. Okay, more head stuff. Yeah, great. Okay, so one thing I do for the eyes, I'm not certain if this is what you're supposed to do, but I take the eyes, which are underneath these hypernerves, and I go to convert to joints. So that creates below it, here, joints that are at the exact same axis location. See, if I click on the hyperNURBS joint and then the hyperNURBS object, you see the axis band doesn't change at all over here. They're basically at the same space. So if I parent this underneath here and I rotate the joint, there's not going to rotate over like a gimbal kind of action. It's not going to like rotate around a point. It's just going to rotate around its own axis. So I'll just parent both of these objects underneath and then take those and let's put them somewhere inside the head. Right there. So now you can see we've got a branch off here that connects to the center of the eyeball. That's going to keep it in place when we move the head around. Probably want to do the same thing for the jaw. So let's convert this to a joint and then convert this to a joint. Okay, so now I have the lower jaw selected, teeth. I'm just going to put those where the jaw is. Right there, jaw. So now if the jaw moves, it should take the teeth with it. And I'll probably just have the upper teeth just connect somewhere along the head. Probably underneath the same hierarchy where the eyes are. Okay, now we just need to set up some kind of control for it. So I'm not going to put any controllers in the neck. I think I'll just, well, maybe, yeah, okay. I'll put like a controller here up to the tip of the head. There. Sweet, and now he's got some head movement and nightmare fuel. Both. He has both. I made the mistake of trying to save. By the way, you should be saving a lot. You'll thank me later. Okay, so we pretty much have this. I mean, like, testing it out, it looks pretty good. I might want to put this neck underneath the chest here. Oh my god. See how it twisted around? That must be some kind of a line malfunction. I'll just rotate the neck back into place like so. His eyes don't look derpy at all. Should probably rotate these. Alright, cool. So now the eyes are kind of set up a little bit. Let's actually set up a controller so we can control where the eyes are looking without having to rotate all the time. I'm going to create a new null, which just is down here. I'm going to move it out to like right around here. And let's select it, call it eye control. Good. And I'm just going to make this a star because what else would you be looking at? So it's a star. It's pretty sweet. Now what you want to do is you want to go inside here and on pretty much anything that's not the joint. I'd say let's not rotate the joint, but let's just say on the hyperNURBS. I'm going to go into character tags, constraint, and then aim. I'm going to tell it to aim at that null we just created, like this. So it looks like it's chosen the wrong axis to point at it. So right now it's using the Z axis. So let's try negative. Okay, that's closer. Let's see what the offset is. Maybe we need to just increase the offset a little bit. Okay, now that looks kind of like he's looking there. So now if I move around this null, the eye kind of follows a little bit. Oh boy. I mean, you've seen worse, right? No? Okay. Me neither. I can copy this and put it on this one here, and let's see what that one does. Probably need to fix the offset on that one. Better if you don't have to use offset, because I find the offset sometimes makes them derp out. And yeah, so I mean, you can control both eyes at once. Hyper realistic. So I'm just going to put this jaw underneath a null. Put a cube shape on it. And so now I've got a jaw controller. Perfect. Not weird at all. Okay, so we're actually pretty much ready to test this guy out. I've got all of his controllers kind of set up. Let's make some of these a little bit bigger. Cool. Looks like they all kind of work to my liking. I mean, they work like I'd expect them to work. So yeah, let's bind the mesh now. What we want to do is we want to basically reveal all of the joints. So just kind of click on these little plus signs to kind of flip down everything. And we want to choose everything that's a joint, because we're choosing what we're going to bind to the mesh. We're choosing what's going to actually deform that mesh. And hope that it's not a total mesh of a rig. And also choose the mesh itself. Now that we've got everything selected, I'm going to go into your character, commands, bind. And again, that creates a little tag here, which shows you what is bound. And using the weight tool, you get the psychedelic view of what is what joint is controlling what part of the polygons. Like you can see here, that area is kind of messy. We're probably going to run into problems there. But otherwise, I mean, I'm fairly happy with that. One of the things you probably want to do right off the bat is set the bind pose. So if you get into trouble, you can reset the bind pose, which is kind of a useful feature. All right, so let's play around with them. Dun, dun, dun. Oh my God. Oh, jeez. Well, we don't want to do that. we want to control. Okay, here's the master pelvis controller. Let's make something big for that. Let's make like a diamond. And again, rigging is nightmare fuel. So if naked Golem wasn't enough, you get stuff like that happening, which is basically how I've set up the. Oh God. What? There. Okay. So yeah, again, rigging, nightmare fuel. I don't like the way his head moves. Let's actually let's kill the head controller. Here's neck. There we go. I'm noticing that when I twist this, it doesn't twist his head. It's because his neck is in a different hierarchy. So I'm actually going to move this neck into the same hierarchy as that controller, which is null 3 here. So now when I move null 3, there you go. Hierarchy is all about thinking, if I move this, what else moves? And do I want it to move? But yeah, everything else is looking pretty good. I can grab his arms and do some arm stuff. Don't like the way it's bending, but that's because it's heading to this pole here. So I can move the pole, something like that. Maybe too high. But again, like the thing is, you want to make sure you have control over everything you need to have control over. It's really hard to add controls at this phase, I find. So you just kind of want to set up everything that you think you could possibly use. Like I could set up fingers, but it's harder now that he's bound, essentially. So let's look at kind of some problems, because basically one of the things that you'll notice... Oh, God. Let's grab that master pelvis controller again. Let's just try putting him into really crazy positions and see what breaks. I mean, actually, it auto-weighted him pretty well. So that's nice. This chest area is problematic though. So what I would probably do is put him into like a terrible position like that. And grabbing the weight tool, you can see, let's just kind of select the joints around there. I think like all of these joints should be controlling that. So now that I've got these selected, what I can do with my my weight tool is I can smooth stuff. So the next thing we want to do is probably set up some facial rigging. We have this amazing jaw controller, which is really realistic, and I like it a lot. We probably want to just like smooth out this using the weight tool, but I digress. Painting weights, tedious, not fun. In fact, painting one weight often takes away from another weight. So sometimes it's good to kind of see the whole area that you're working in, and be careful that you're not painting like over here using the visibility off. Like say if I was going to do some touch-ups on this one, and get out my tool, I've got the add mode on, but I don't have visible only on. If I start painting, like, oh, this is awesome. Whoa, what happened to his thing? So that's a very real possibility, and it will terrify you. You can create nightmare fuel. Oh God, no! Why did I do? So yeah, let's set up some facial rigging. So we want to find the base mesh, which is right down here, and we want to basically add a point morph to it. There, so it just adds it as a tag. And once you have that, it automatically creates a morph. So you have your base pose, so you can always go back to that one. Don't worry about messing this up. But any changes we make now to the points on the mesh will actually be stored as a morph target. So you can basically use a slider to go back and forth between states. So I'll just show you. Don't be afraid when it pops back like that. Basically, it's getting rid of the joint deformers in order to return you back to the original state. This is what was modeled because we're going to basically be moving those original points around. So let's just make him angry. He's very angry, mostly at his creator. So I'm just going to start making some selections using soft select, which will basically have a smoother fall off. It won't be the hard fall off, and you can choose that over there. I'm going to increase the radius just to smooth out the fall off even more. Make it grab more points. Looks like I might be grabbing too many points on the bottom, so I'm going to actually change my soft selection mode over here to group, which is kind of nice. It isolates it to the area around the points I'm selecting. If you don't have visible only selected though, there is the danger of grabbing the back of his head, which would mean when we did the morph, not only would his eyes be angry, but the back of his head would be angry. And that's not the desired effect, at least not now. We can do that later if we want. So yeah, I'm just going to move these points down to kind of create some kind of angry eyes. And then I'm going to go into our point morph tag, which is down under our mesh. I'm going to name the deformation that we just did. So that way we know what the morph is going to do, because we can actually stack morphs. We can have several morphs at the same time. We can add them, get rid of them, animate them, overcrank them. Like here I can show you how to animate them. You want to switch over the tag properties from edit to animate, and then you want to click on this little dot here with the command key pressed down. And that'll set down a keyframe. It's going to move in the timeline to the future, set down another keyframe. And now when I scrub the timeline, you can see it's keyframing in between those two states. Really useful. Another cool thing you can do with these is you can actually overcrank the values. So you can actually basically double or triple or whatever. Or you can actually go in the opposite direction to create kind of a sad, scared look, which has some clipping. But that's the basics of character rigging. And thanks so much. I hope you guys liked it.